Good evening and welcome, you nutcrackers, to the Einstein League of the Scientist Reverse Grid League. Tonight we are at Monaco and Silverstone. As you can see, we're starting at Monaco, and as you also can see, we have a little bit of rain here, which makes it even more interesting and exciting. So as you know, we have a 25% race ahead of us. That means 20 laps around the streets of Monaco. As always, we have a formation lap and we have our normal grid settings, which means the last finisher from the last race will start on pole this time, and our winner from the last race will start at the back. But of course, everyone who hasn't finished the race will start behind our winner of the last race. And we also have two new guys in our league, in the Einstein League. It's SRGL and it's Rawsome 13, both starting at the back. So they're completely new to this. And we have a fragile tunnel already crashing into the wall on the formation lap. I just hope for him that he has the perfect example here to learn for the start. That looked a little bit sketchy, to be honest. While everyone is now on their formation laps, we will have a closer look at our settings and what you can see during the race. Of course, we will have the full track map on, so you can follow your favorite drivers. We will also see the lap data and of course the telemetry to compare ERS conditions and everything else. Of course, we also have a closer look at position changes, pit stops, the tyre selection. As you can see, everyone is starting on Inters here. We got also a penalty system, I think, from Monaco. It's not that important, but here and there could be a penalty, especially in the rain, if you can't stop your car on that chicane here out of the tunnel. We're very close to get at least a warning, and we will have a closer look at the intervals and the distance to the leaders as the fastest laps. So because of this little intermezzo at the wall, Fragile Tunnel is now in P9 or 10, I think, but that's not very important because he's still on track warming up his tyres, and he will start, of course, in P1. Everyone is now forming up to the grid. Fragile Tunnel, as you can see, starting on pole. Walter Beam is Alpine in P2, in Eskimo, and Aston Martin P3. Behind him is Casto, Ticunia, Jade, Gerard. Two guys in SRGL 88 and Rawsome 13. Seconds, and the lights are now out for everyone else. Let's see how the start goes. Of course, damage is on. Keep that in mind, as we have a Red Bull here with Castro at a beautiful start box crashing into the wall, and he must have a lot of damage. Eskimo still in P3, his teammate Ticunia behind him in P4, making up a position, but Eskimo already has a lot of damage, which means he will go down the order, letting his teammate by, of course, to not hold him up, and he's crashed into the wall, and Fragile Tunnel also into the wall. So we have some crash here at the start of the race. Wall to be up to P1. Casto with a beautiful start, but also crashing into the wall with damage, I think. Let's keep a closer look at his car. Yeah, he has damage to the left side of his wing, up to P2, but of course he has that damage, which is not helping him. And Ticunia with a fresh wing, nothing there to see, which is looking bad or anything, but he gets a 3-second time penalty already out of the tunnel in that chicane. Jaden up to P4, calling on a P5, and some position changes here. Gerard and overtaking Wisburn down to P7 for him and his AlphaTauri. Your P8, Rawsome up to P9 already, and SRGL 88 making his way through Awesome. You can say that because they had a little coming together there, which looked heavy on Rawson's wing, and yep, he's already into the pits. Wing damage for him. Eskimo just rescuing his car into the pits as Fragile Tunnel will be already a 4.6 second gap to D'Cunha, because of course Casto also went into the pits with his damaged front wing. That means we still have an Aston Martin in the top 3, but it's not Eskimo, it's D'Cunha, because Eskimo had damage to his wing, and Jaden is very, very close behind D'Cunha. Of course, around Monaco, it's very tricky to overtake, especially in the rain, because we don't have the opportunity of using DRS, which means you have to overtake someone because of a mistake, or just because of skill level. 3-second time penalty for Corleone, who's already up to P4. Staying here with the battle between D'Cunha and Jaden for P2. We also keep a close look at the position changes, and as we can see, everyone made up positions. Corleone already 5 positions up to P4 for him. Of course, he now has a penalty, but Doradon 8.4 behind Corleone. Nothing to worry for him here. And as Harvey says in the live chat, that's a lot of damage. He's absolutely fucking right with that, because that is a lot of damage. And Simpiel also into the pits now. He must have damage too. And Casto is trying to close the gap to the front runners. Of course, he's very far behind, but every position counts as he pumps into Doradon, who has no chance. It goes into the wall. Damage to his wing. Let's see if Casto has damage, and yes, Casto again has damage to his wing, the right side part of the wing, or the right, whatever you call that shit. It's completely gone, so he will struggle again and maybe has to pit again. Doesn't help him at all. He's very close behind Yor now, trying to overtake him through the tunnel section, maybe going down the inside. Let's see. Yeah, he's trying to side by side. Yor leaving a lot of space, and Casto almost cutting him off there. That was quite brutal, Mr. Casto. I think Yor will have a word with you because of that. Corleone is still in P4. Jaden with the fastest lap, who's still only a few tenths behind D'Cunha. His gap to also be quite the same, 4.7 seconds. Nothing lost, nothing gained here. Same pace from D'Cunha and Walterby. I think Jaden could go a little bit quicker, but it's up to D'Cunha to let him by, or even not to let him by, because he's in P2. He has every right to defend that position, as we have Yor and Casto both in the pits after some damage to their front wings, which means Doradon up to P5, Wisp in P6, and Doradon already 18 seconds behind Corleone, which gives Corleone a very good cushion to the back here with this penalty. Nothing to worry there. Jaden still very, very close behind D'Cunha. Something has changed here. Casto right behind Simpiel 88, almost going side by side. Casto trying to find a gap here at Monaco, aiming for the inside, but knowing better this time to not go for the move. Eskimo again in the pit, again a front wing change. For him it's just damage limitation now. Casto trying to force his way through. Of course, he seems to be the quicker car, but around Monaco you can't just force your way through. You have to be very, very careful and patient. And let's see if he goes for the inside. Yeah, he goes for the inside. They touch, and oh, Simpiel 88 defended that in an interesting way, to say the least. But yeah, he lost his wing now, so a tricky one to to call as a commentator here. I think you all saw what I saw. Let's call it interesting for the moment. You make your opinions out of that. And Castano trying to take Rawson on the pit straight, trying to go on the outside, switching back to the inside, trying to brake later, no chance here. Rawson defending that position, but colliding with the wall, colliding with Casto. Woo! That was a sweaty thing. That was sweaty. Casto involved in a lot of overtakes. Oh, and Dorada took the Nico Rosberg line here. But I think for him, that means his wing is still intact, which is very good for him. No damage to his car, of course. He lost some time here and there, but I think he couldn't care less. Wispen overtook him in the meantime. Wispen up to P5. Jane again with the fastest lap, and Vicuña, but very interesting to see that they made up around half a second on Walterby. So maybe Walterby had a little mistake in his lap. Maybe his times are going down as SRGL has crashed, and as you can see here, he's out of the race. Our first DNF here, which means Eskimo and Fertotano will go up by 1 position. The closest battle on track right now is Vicuña versus Jaden for P2. Well, not on board, but we are. Let's switch on board with Jaden to see where he may be quicker than Vicuña. Seems like in the braking zones he's making up a lot of time. Well, you have to be close enough to make it count. Jordan and Rawson both pitting now, P8 and P9. Eskimo around 50 seconds behind, so they won't lose the position to Eskimo right now for the moment. But of course, you never know. And Vicuña now around 5 seconds behind Walterby. So maybe that was just a little mistake for Walterby. But he's leading this race comfortably right now, as Rawson in P9 is coming out of the pits, making way for Vicuña and Jaden. Very fair. Nice to see. Of course, every left car is ghosted, but the Colt Masters and F1, you never know. Sometimes they are ghosted, sometimes not. So very fair by Rawson to give these positions to the guys and leave them enough space. Castro now with a 3-second time penalty to his name. Vicuña another 3 seconds, so let's keep an eye on the penalties. Vicuña with 6 seconds. Coley on the 3, Castro with 3 with a little drift into the last corner, which looked very nice. Good work, Castro. 6 seconds for Rawson, 6 for Eskimo, and Castro pulling out the fastest lap right now, a 1:23.310, which is around 3/10 quicker than Walterby's time. Good job by him right now. And he has to close the gap to Wisman, overtake him, and get 3 seconds on him because of his penalty. So very, very hard challenge, especially around Monaco. But let's see how he does. Jaden only 3/10 of a second behind Vicuña. Still trying to get by to make up that position. Of course, he's in net P2 because of the penalty, but with the pace he got, maybe he wants to see if he can get Walterby at the end of the race. And from my perspective as a commentator, I also want to see that, but I also like Vicuña to defend his position to see how he does that, and I want to see exciting racing, as you all want. Just got a message from SimPL88. He's over his internet, and he has massive internet issues, so that was the reason for the interesting battles. That's of course very unfortunate. No worries about that. That can happen. And from Jaden's point of view, something else could happen, and that's an overtake on Vicuña. Let's see if he pulls enough. 6 seconds, 6 tenths behind. No chance for Jane to to get anywhere close to continuing to overtake him. He's getting another 3-second time penalty, which means he's up to 9 seconds already. Rawson overtaking Jordan into turn 1, getting P8. Very quiet race from Corleone in P4, who has now Wisburn 2.5 behind him, which means Wisburn is in net P4 because of Corleone's penalty. And Casto is very close behind Wisburn, so he made up these 5 seconds within 2 laps. Great job by Casto, but it's one thing to close the gap, another one to overtake someone, as we have yellow flags into turn 1, and that could have been Eskimo, I think. And now Casto is in the same situation that Jaden found himself in 8 laps ago. He's only a few tenths behind, and he's now very close to Wisburn. Going on board, showing himself on the inside, but no chance to get Wisburn here, trying to stay tight and close. Oh, faking the overtake on the inside here. Casto and Jaden seem like the fastest drivers, and Jaden is now in P2 because De Cunha has to pit, and he's doing the absolute right thing, switching to fresh tires, maybe changing his wing down to P3, but he would have been in P3 anyways, and he's not losing a position because Corleone is too far behind. Yellow flag, sector 2. It's a blue car. It's Mr. Casto with a 10-second time penalty, which is not ideal to say the least. Wisburn ahead. Seems like, no, it's Eskimo, sorry. That's Eskimo who's ghosted because he got left. Wisburn quite a few ahead, and I think Casto has no damage. Good for him. And King Eskimo is out of the race. He DNFs on lap 10. And to finish my sentence, De Cunha pitted on fresh tires, fresh wing. And as we can see, he almost spun, he saved it almost. Came to a stop, but nothing lost here. 24 seconds behind him, Corleone, so nothing to worry about. But let's see what Jaden is capable to do. Now from P2, 5.5 behind Walterby. Let's keep that gap. Let's keep an eye on that gap to see if it changes, increases or decreases. Let's see. Well, that involves Casto, of course, with 13 seconds of penalties at the chicane after the tunnel. Only 2 DNFs right now, SimPL88 and King Eskimo. Fragile Tunnel starting in P1, right now in P10. Just damage limitation for him, just finish, get some points. That's everything he can do from that position now, but you have to do it. It's tricky enough around here. Rawson P9, Dirt on P8, Yol P7, Casto P6, and he's again closing that gap to Wisburn 10th by 10th. And Jaden is also closing the gap to Walterby, 4.8 now. Not by much, only 2 to 3 tenths. He has to pull the rabbit out of the hat to show Walterby something, because right now the gap is quite comfortable with 8 laps to go. As soon as Walterby crosses the finish line, which is happening right now. Wisburn still 2.5 behind Corleone, which means he's in net P4 because of the penalties. But he's still got Casto behind, who's closing that gap from lap to lap. Crazy pace from Casto, and he needs it because he's got a 13-second time penalty. And we have yellow flags in sector 3. I think that's a McLaren. It is a McLaren. It's Rawson who has lost his wing. So he has to rescue that car into the pits as he receives blue flags because Corleone is lapping him right now. Rawson saving his car into the pits, getting a new fresh wing and fresh tyres. And Jaden is closing that gap. 10th by 10th, down to 4 seconds now. Let's hope for a good and tight finish here at the end of the race. Well, of course, with F1 you never know, anything could happen. You could crash on the last lap. Everything's possible. Let's see how the rest of the race is playing out here. As we got another penalty here. Acuna up to 12, Corleone still with 3, Castle still with 13, Lawson with 9 seconds. And Casto has overtaken Wisburn, but he's paying the price of getting another 3-second time penalty. So maybe he just didn't want to stay behind Wisburn and overtook him, like the game says, illegally. Wisburn also with a 3-second time penalty, and now Casto has to get a 13-second gap between himself and Wisburn on the last 7 laps. So the pressure is on Casto right now. I'm not doubting that he can't get it, but he needs 7 quali laps without any mistakes. And he's only 2.5 behind Corleone now, so a bad thing for him is he has to do another overtake to get this thing done. The pace seems to be there for Casto. Around Monaco, it's not only about the pace, but someone who is on pace is Jaden, who's within 1 second to Walterby now. There must have been a mistake by Walterby, otherwise I don't think that Jaden got 3 seconds on Walterby on 2 laps just like that. Unbelievable. Jaden 7/10 behind Walterby, but the game begins again for Jaden. He played this game for 10 laps behind Acuna, and now he doesn't need to play this game because Walterby got a penalty. 3-second time penalty for Walterby. That means Jaden can stay behind Walterby, doesn't have to overtake him, and still wins the race. But of course every racer wants to win a race on track. Nobody wants to win just because of penalties. And he's very close behind Walterby now. Only 4/10 of a second, using his ERS. Walterby not using it anymore. Jaden trying to do an overtake here, but staying behind. He knows better. A very good fight here for the lead at Monaco. And Casto getting closer and closer to Corleone as we have yellow flags in Sector 2. Not sure who it was. Fragitano gets a 5-second time penalty for corner cutting here. Still yellow flags in Sector 2 and Sector 3, but no safety car at all. And Casto is now very close behind Corleone and already has a gap of 6 seconds to Wisburn. So Casto might have to overtake Corleone now. And maybe Corleone lets him go because of Casto's penalties. There's no shame in just letting him go and participating and driving behind him and just copying his lines. Casto desperately trying to overtake Corleone here. Jordan about to get left here from Corleone and Casto. He's not letting them go. He's still driving. Of course he's ghosted, but he's staying there. is a little bit irritating, confusing for the car driving behind or inside of the ghost car. That isn't funny at all, but of course you're entitled to do that when you get lap. Castor has to be very careful. And Jaden got Walterby now. Jaden overtook Walterby right before the tunnel. So Jaden up to P1 now in front of Walterby, who got that 3-second time penalty still to his name. And Jaden finally, from his point of view, in P1. He has been fighting for that very, very hard. And that's really down to skill. Very good race by him. P2 for Walterby has a 42-second gap to Vicuña, and Castor overtook Corleone. I'm very sorry, guys, for missing the overtake from Jaden and from Castor afterwards. Seems like I'm just glad we caught it just on the screen here. Castor up to P4, and now Castor has to do something special here. With 3.5 laps to go, he has to get a 6-second gap, like another 6 seconds. His gap to Wisburn is around 7 to 8 seconds, so he needs at least 5 to 6 seconds more to get him out of the window, but he also needs to get Corleone out of the window, and that seems not imaginable. These are another 13 seconds, and Corleone is only 2.7 behind. But let's see what Castor can do here around Monaco. It seems like he has a lot of pace, and he's really pushing right now. Jaden, of course, also has the pace already. A 2-second gap to Walterby in P2. Vicuña still P3, and Castor trying to push now, and Wisburn is pitting. So Wisburn is doing a huge favor to Castor here, and just letting him like go and stay in front. Of course Wisburn will keep P6 for sure, but he had the chance to gain P5 because of penalties. Maybe he got damage to his wings, so he's doing the safer option to just pit and stay in P6 with fresh tires. And you can also attack the fastest lap, which gives him another point, an extra point. And Corleone cutting off almost the whole chicane here. He's 4 seconds now behind Castor, so it seems like Castor won't be able to pull out a gap of 13 seconds to Corleone. But of course, like a wise man once said, with everyone you never know. So let's see what happens here. 6 seconds now the gap. He needs another 7 seconds within 3 laps. So let's see what's possible for him here. And Walterby now 21 seconds behind Jane. It seems like Walterby has pitted. Well, let's check that first. Yeah, Walterby has pitted. He's on pressure into, so he's also gone for the fastest lap like Wisburn will do. And the gap between Castor and Corleone is now up to 7 seconds, but Castor needs another 6 seconds. Let's keep an eye on Castor's on board to see how hard he's pushing here at Monaco. Trying to make something special happen here. He's on the limit, as you can see, very close to the walls. Keeping it very tight here. Here again, down to second gear, third for traction, up to fourth. And now his gap, the gap has gone up to 9.6 seconds. So there could be a possibility of pulling out that gap. 10.7 now. Corleone has damage to the right side of his wing, so suddenly something is possible here for Castor. He needs 13 seconds. He's already up to 11.4. Let's see if Corleone can still push a little bit to keep Castro away from getting P4 and getting the gap between him and Corleone, but it seems like that the 13 seconds are now in the books after the hairpin, and we are up to 13.1 seconds. So Castro, mega job by overtaking two cars here and getting a big gap, as we have yellow flags. The second three, I think it was the McLaren and Rawson. So very unfortunate for Corleone. I think it's down to the wing damage he has. But yeah, it is what it is. Jaden already on the last lap of this race, leading comfortably in front of Walterby in P2 and Dicunia in P3. Castro also closing the gap to Dicunia, but nothing to get here. As Jaden is now in the last sector of the race, in the last corner, coming on to the pit straight, crossing the line and winning the Monaco Grand Prix in the wet with the fastest lap on his last lap, a 1:21.3. Walterby maybe trying to fight back and get the fastest lap himself. He was up by 2/10, I think. Let's see if he can make something happen here. And it's a 21.6. It's not the fastest lap for Walterby, but he finishes in P2 after a very solid race. Dicunia in P3. Got Castro now very close behind him, but I think we won't see an overtake attempt here by Castro, as he's got 4 seconds of penalties more than Dicunia, and almost crashing into the wall is Castro is overtaken Durdan on the last lap here because of penalties, I think, after they finished and crossed the line. Dicunia finishing in P3, Castro in P4, Corleone now in the last second, the swimming pool chicane. Coming up to the last corners himself, the only car that's on track now driving, and he will cross the line here in Monaco in P5 for Mercedes. A very good race by Corleone, who made up a lot of positions from the start. We've seen a lot of pit stops, a lot of broken wings, a lot of overtakes too, which is not natural around Monaco, especially in the rain, but beautiful race, not too many incidents, very good one. Congratulations to our winner Jaden for AlphaTauri, winning the Monaco GP. Walterby in P2 and Dicunia getting a podium here for Aston Martin in P3, after also getting a huge amount of penalties. But happy, I think he's very happy that Castro decided to get 4 seconds more on penalties than he did. So our final standings are Jaden in P1, Walterby P2, Dicunia P3, Castro P4, Corleone P5, Wisburn finishing in P6, behind him Yor, Durdan, Rawson, Fragile Tunnel, our DNFs, Eskimo and SimPL88, and the fastest lap goes to Jaden. Only 2 in DNFs here around Monaco, which is quite surprising to say the least. And we will finish our stream in a few seconds, but don't worry, we will be back in around 5 to 10 minutes with our second race around Silverstone. So stay clean, boys and girls, and we will hear from each other in a few minutes.